What do you mean?
What do you mean?
What do you mean?
From her What Do You Mean channel.
Alright guys, it is now at the point where I don't make videos as a hobby, I just make videos. Found myself at my grandparents' and there was a newspaper there, and it's been a while since I had a physical one from the place I live in front of me, so yeah, old relatives sitting there looking at me like, why is she filming the newspaper? Anyway, this is from the 21st of September 2019. Let's have a look. First up, spy movie used as a defence for AFP raids on Australian media. Already off to a flying start. This little quick article just goes on to explain how the boss of Home Affairs doubles down on his belief that whistleblowers should face jail time for leaking government secret documents. And the Director of Corporate Affairs for News Corp Australia, Campbell Reid, that's the guy in the picture, I'm pretty sure, quote, his blood ran cold to hear Home Affairs did not know how many journalists were subject to warrants in Australia. And my favourite, Mr. Reid also rejected the AFP claimed it did not conduct raids but executed search warrants. Yeah, right on you, Mr. Reid, because the police are saying, like, no, that's not a spider, that's the tarantula. Or, that's not a Labrador, that's a dog. Like, with Mr. Reid having the ripper of a response, if it looks like a raid and feels like a raid, it's probably a raid. What a line. Alright, moving on. Oh yeah, now, this is insane. I was like, my grandfather actually pays for this. We'll put a little Rupert Murdoch and assume because he's having a wicked time, and when I think of someone having a great time, they've got one of those hats that hold your drinks on. So we'll keep him as a little counter for how many full page ads we see in this newspaper. 1 ad and already 2 ads. Okay, now it's just started raining. I'm gonna have to speak up. This one's great. This one highlights a lot of what's wrong with the fucking world. Retailer fuel oil price hike. Now this pretty much just goes on to say that petrol stations around South Australia went up to around $1.70 per litre, which is like a 40-cent hike. Straight after that, drone strike in Saudi Arabia. So what pretty much is happening is they up the prices with people assuming that's why, but they didn't really need to hike the prices that high. It also says in this, the chief executive of the leading advisory firm Energy Quest, quote, oil prices are actually lower now than they were 6 months ago, notwithstanding that half of the Saudi production got taken out, plus the sanctions on Iran and the collapse in the production in Venezuela. Alrighty. Oh, and the quote from a spokesperson for the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission. The watchdog monitored prices and would call out gouging. I'm sure they will. Alright, this next one is crazy. US-based spoiler avoids jail for carjacking. Wait for it. He said he had a bad trip on LSD and jacked a car of a Adelaide medical researcher. 28-year-old American baseballer jacks a car and his defense is he's on a bad trip. Now, 2 points. First of all, when I've had a bad trip, I never really started pushing triangle in my head trying to get into a car and go full GTA on anyone. It's when you take psychedelic drugs, they usually just amplify the true character of the person. So I don't really see it as a fantastic defense. Second point, if I jacked a car, if you jacked a car, if anybody with darker skin jacked a car and try to say they did it because they're on a bad trip, that's not going to help their situation get better. I can almost guarantee it'll make their situation worse. Oh, the privilege of white Americans extends beyond America. 4, 5, 6. Oh yeah, no, this is great. This little strip here. Intruder bashes man, takes drugs in spree. I think 3 guys went into a house in Elizabeth somewhere, armed with a machete and an axe, fucked up some guy and took his drugs. And then it goes on to not too late to take the sting out of citrus wasps. Apparently these wasps have been here for 20 years, came from the East Coast, and they're talking about doing things to stop them from being here. Remove them and spray some spray to stop them from laying eggs. And I just thought, does that spray only affect these wasps, or are they going to fuck up some more bees too? Because that's exactly what we need. And finally, moving on to the itty bitty article at the bottom, AFP probes Afghan crimes. Fantastic headline, gives lots of important information away in those 4 words. Sarcasm, that's quite bullshit. Afghan crimes. What's really happening is the Australian Federal Police are going off to investigate war crimes committed by Australian soldiers. Like even just Australian soldiers accused of war crimes. Sure, you could find room to fit that in there. And the only upside of this being a really small article is when it's on a page, all the words are big enough for you to be able to read it yourself. Now let's just take note. It looks like the headline for the intruder bashes man takes drugs in spree gets more space than the entire thing about the Australian soldiers committing war crimes. Moving on. Wild weather smashes SA's failing crops. And this one here explains how some of our farmers have lost up to 70% of their yield because we've had the most dry August, and then they just got battered with rain and dust storm. And all I have to say about this is exactly why we all went and had a strike on Friday. This will only get worse. 70% of your crop is a lot. Farmers and their crops are usually how we get our food. So let's move on. With the original audio of this video is hilarious because you hear me go, oh shit, because I missed 2 pages. It's like, and go back 2 freaking full page ads. Alright. Oh well, would you look at that? Plan for more nurse car parks. Now the rundown of this is they changed the street parking in North Adelaide around hospitals from 10-hour parking to 3-hour, 2-hour parking to, give it balance for visitors and people that want to go shopping and such, which might have been all well and fine back when they did it. And they want to move them back to 10-hour parking spaces because nurses are walking really far and late at night and having to leave patients to move their car to avoid being fined. Now, it feels like this is only an issue now after my mate Marshall thought it'd be a great idea to make people pay to park at hospitals. So I think lots of nurses don't want to pay to have their car at their work all day, so they're going for the free parking on the streets, and that's been made shorter, so they have to go out and move it all the time. And who could have seen this coming? I wonder, maybe some South Australian who reads the budget and made a video about it and told everybody this is going to turn to cabbage. It's just like everyone's trying to take their slice. Council wanted maybe more parking fine revenue, as well as maybe give up more parking space for visitors and whatever. And the state wanted more revenue from car parks and hospitals. And number one person getting screwed are nurses, people we need to take care of us when we're sick. The most deserving victim. More ads. Alright. I grabbed this one because sort of to show American people how it's meant to be done. This boy Bailey raised a bunch of money after his father got bowel cancer, and here in Australia he didn't need to do it to help his dad. He did it just because he wanted to show he cares and wanted to help, and all the money he raised went to the Cancer Council, a charity I also support, because they didn't need that money to pay for his treatment, because this is Australia. Then we've got a quick little one, Green's threat to fight GM crops. Just goes on about how they want to fight to keep the ban in South Australia. Goes on about the cost, pricing, revenue versus state. Don't see jack shit about anything to do with health or the price for the consumer. But my favourite part at the end of all this will probably be a public meeting at the South Australian Research and Development Institute. Farmers argued their case for growing GM food. Attendees raised concerns about the effect on organic producers access to overseas markets and potentially increasing the use of herbicides. I just like how it's got potentially increasing the use of herbicides. Full stop, mic drop. Alright, sure, let's do this, let's move on. Wind farms on blackout trial. This spends a little bit of time going on about how they're investigating blackouts in 2016, the statewide ones, blaming a wind farm, yada yada. I love how AGL, like one of Australia's gas companies, is going and put their 2 cents in. Like, yeah, I want to hear exactly what AGL has to say about wind farms. And then it goes on all the way to the end, where it's like, yep, savage winds are probably what did it. So it's not the actual windmills, it was the windmills being fucked up. Sure, we can fix that. But then also has at the end, real sneaky, real cheeky like, separately, the regulator is also taking action against the Pelican Point Power, a gas-fired power plant, over the blackout in February the 8th, 2017, which affected about 90,000 homes in South Australia. Is that what happened? I thought fossil fuels were the way to go. What happened with that one? Why didn't it work? Thought that was solid. Your one tiny bullshit argument's falling apart, guys. Even in your wind farms. What good are they? Well, see, even when the Pelican Point gas-fired power plant is working, it's fucking us over. When the wind farms are working, the earth isn't getting hotter. Now, if you still stand on the other side of this position, you probably need to check yourself. Whoa, 14 ads. I don't know how many pages there are. Something about footy. Yep. Fantastic. Oh, outstanding ad. Brilliant. Yep, exactly what I want to see. Those two chuds. The whole, I'll ruin America a bit quicker. Oh, no worries. I'll see how quickly I can fuck over Australia. No, this is a little interesting one for various reasons. Sex work bill will rely on tactics and trading. Now, not going to go too far into the actual subject on legalising or decriminalising sex work in South Australia. I'll save that for another time. I just want to read out some primo lines by Daniel Wills, the writer of this. Starts off great. They say making laws and sausages are a lot alike, and no one wants to really see what goes into the final product. Whether it's voluntary euthanasia or abortion, they often arrive with what is claimed to be, in quotation marks, popular support from the public, which has been shown up in the polling on a very simple question. Most people in South Australia with a strong small L liberal pedigree would likely fall into the progressive side of all those debates when asked at the dinner party or at the water cooler. That just sort of then shows you what sort of people are, like Australian Liberal voters, the sort of people that are supposedly having dinner parties and talking politics around the water cooler. Speaks volumes. Should consenting adults be able to do what they want? Sure. If a sick person in pain wants to end their life, should they be made to wither? Probably not. Should a woman be forced to birth a child she's unable or unwilling to care for? Nah, that's a tough call only she can make. Whether some with a hard stance that will never be convinced, the bulk of South Australians tend to fall in the live and let live category. I guess that's a little bit reassuring that even the people on the other side of the political spectrum from me in the same state aren't complete fucksticks for the sake of being fucksticks. So the setup for all this, they start with, it's not the most pretty thing making laws and goes on by the end of it to say most of the state MPs support the quote-unquote progressive view on this and they want to decriminalise it, but as they realise it's not going to be so easy in writing the legislation for this, and they're getting a bit, well, bad news for you guys, writing laws, that's your job. If you go, damn, yeah, I think that's a good idea, but I don't really want to have to do the hard work, you're in the wrong frickin' job. And the final line, he says, just kind of seems more like a stab. And so often there has been where progressives have tactically fallen down, so determined to get everything they routinely finish up with nothing. Well, it's not like there was ever a tactic of have a position that people can get around and agree with. Alright, now do nothing. Alright, let's one last one. We'll wrap this up. Hasn't this been fun? And the last one, don't slip up on wages. It seems like you could direct that headline at people that pay wages. But no. This is for people that receive them. On the side there, 5 tips if you have been underpaid. 1. Check your numbers. 2. Talk to your boss. 3. Contact the Fair Works Ombudsman. 4. Contact a lawyer. Because, when you're underpaid, you just have that little bit of spare cash to pay a lawyer. And 5. Keep on top of it. I was actually, laughing out loud at this and how ridiculous it was. I think someone asked me if I was, reading the comics or something. I was like, no. Alright, we'll wrap it up there. This is a real little spare of the moment video. It was fun. I'll go through the rest of the paper to show you. Here's some abuse of horses, followed by... Oh yeah, Justin Trudeau has a thing for blackface. That's inconvenient. The thing was, I can't picture even Trump doing blackface at any point of his life. Canada, you've also got a fucking psycho crazy as fuck leader too. Join the club. And then, this is at least a good one. Aussies under threat as tensions rise in the shifting nature of war. I did start to read that one, but then I had to go eat, and it's, for what I read, it's exactly what you think it is. We have to go fight whoever our allies tell us to with them. And then underneath, see what I'm talking about? See what I mean? Above it, Aussies under threat and war. Then, Megan is back from maternity leave, ready for royal tour duty. I'm amazed that people in England even give a fuck. Isn't tenfold amazed that there be Australians out there that give a fuck about what the royal family is doing. Let alone where they get 5 times the amount of space than our AFP going to investigate our soldiers committing war crimes. This is what the world is right now. Corporate interests dominate. People are told to live selfish lives. Knowledge is not sexy. Corruption is legal. And my grandfather still pays for this newspaper. Lots of ads. I guess it's just trying to stay true to being called the Advertiser. Funny. It's hilarious. And just so the whole chicken or the egg thing, this has been called the Advertiser all the way back to when it was 4 pages long and cost 4 pence. So I think the excessive 4-page ads did come after the name. Alright, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, leave a comment. I take suggestions and recommendations. Have a lovely day. And remember, do your best to take no shit but do no harm, my friends. Peace.